Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of lyrical dissonance, checking out tracks where the emotions of the song don't necessarily line up with the emotions and themes of the lyrics. Today we're going to be looking at a track from the band Maxium The Hormone. I'm a big fan of this band, a little bit I've heard from them. I've really enjoyed. This song is called Chū Chū Lovely Muni Muni Mura Mura Prin Prin Bora Nururu Rero Rero. I kind of wish I was making that up. It just sounds like a string of sounds. Anywho, let's get into this and see what Maxium the Hormone are bringing to the table today. Such a harsh shift there. Okay. Bass coming in with these funky slaps and pops. Okay. Really nice way of bringing in the power by leaving out the right side guitar until this moment. Oh, that was time with both. Oh, really interesting use of panning to achieve specific vibes. Transferring the melody into the guitar for a little bit of a solo. With the slight, a lot of variation on it. Very pop punk. Okay. Ooh, alright. Okay. That was a ride. Okay, so the cool thing about this is that it follows a very interesting pattern. And we can look at this on a micro and a macro level. If we look at it on a micro level and we divide every single new idea into a new section, we're going to end up with an interesting sort of structure to the song. But if we look at it at larger cycles, and we take each of these cycles to be a full idea upon itself, we're going to see a slightly different structure to the song, which I think is gonna interest longtime fans of the channel. So there are 4 distinct sections in the beginning of the song. Uh, we have the punky section, and then the metalcore section, and then like the pop rock section. And there's another metal-y section in there. It gets kind of heavy again. There's 4 sections though, right? I think I missed one of them or misspoke about one of them, but there's 4 sections there. So we can call this A, B, C, D. And then we repeat back to the chorus, I guess we could call it. It's the title of the song. We go A, B, C, D again. Then we move into the pop punk section that goes into the guitar solo. So we can call this an E or an E and an F. And then we go into the section where the vocals were being like bouncing around. We can call this a bridge. So now we're in a G. And then we bring it back to the A section and we have some variations on this. So we have A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A variation, right? It is cyclical in types, but it is also fairly linear in some of the smaller ideas. It almost feels kind of like a rhapsody in some ways. There are very few songs that I think go through, what is H? What is that, the 7th letter? 8th letter? 8 different sections of a song in 3 minutes. Kind of bonkers the speed they move through this. But I mentioned there's a neat little thing here. If we kind of go above these individual ideas and we see that the ABCD gets repeated. So what if the ABCD is just a single idea? It goes through various concepts. So we have an A. And then these 4 sections repeat again. So we have an A. And then we go into a section that is very different from all this. In fact, it even contains a solo section. So we'll call this a B. It's the first time we actually change ideas. And this encapsulates the pop punk, the guitar solo, and that the vocal section where it was pretty much just vocals kind of bouncing around. And then we return back to the familiar beginning of the song with the chorus is what I called it. And A, we end up with AABA. Why is the jazz structure in here? Oh man, that gave me a good laugh when I realized it. That was just kind of. And of course, that's not entirely true because that final A technically would predicate having the second, third, and fourth sections of it, and it really just has that opening chorus idea that says the name of the song. So it's not a completely accurate AABA, but I mean, it's close enough. If the song didn't end and decided to continue on into the heavier parts and then into that pop rock section, I think that would just be a perfect way to bring this about, but I still think it works even without it. We can still call it AABA. We can still say they use jazz structure to create this song. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But they are doing a lot of things in here. We just talked about them. Let me count. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So yeah, 8 sections. That's what I said. We have 8 sections in this song to discuss. And, like I said, that's a lot of sections to put into a song, even if all of them are individually played once. If it was a pure rhapsody moving from A to H from these 8 sections. But we repeat them. The B, the C, and the D get repeated twice. The A gets repeated, or gets played twice. The A gets gets played 3 times. And then E, F, and G get. Oh, there's no H. Now, there's only 7 sections, but still, the E, F, and G get played once. It's still a lot of ideas to shove into a 3-minute song, and I think that most people are going to feel that blistering pace along with it, and that is entirely why. On average, I think we weren't in a section for more than 20 or 30 seconds. Maybe not even. It's got to be less than that if we're going to fit all this in. So, the first section we have, though, is going to be the sort of punky section, right? We have the driving drums, we have a centered vocalist that sings something, and then we get, actually sings a call, and then we get a response in the gang vocals. And we sort of bounce between this a couple of times. Then we move into a, was that the harsh rapping section? I think that was next. Uh, Man, there's so much. I think that is the harsh rapping section that comes next. And this part was interesting because we got a super. Oh no, this wasn't the funky part yet. No, the funky part came next. This one was just very heavily concentrated. Um, like all the instruments were present, they were all very direct and all on the same wavelength, a meter style. We shifted vocalists. Um, and it was just very rhythmically syncopated while having a textural like heaviness to it and textural weight. And then this moved into the what was it, blast beats? I think it was just. I mean, everything just like pure eighth notes or pure 16th notes from like even the vocals, the drums, everything was in on this. And then we got to the funky bit, and I love this section. Super syncopated, bringing in this, we're taking the syncopation away from the vocals that we had in the rapping bit and giving it to the bass, which is applying some funky slapping and popping. Again, more of a jazz technique than a rock technique. Interesting. There's little bits of jazz seeping in here, which really does not startle me at all. That's not the word I want. As close as I can think. Surprise me. Just because Maxium The Hormone, I just know them to be a band that has so many influences and brings them all together into single tracks, and I still have no idea how they control the chaos the way they do so consistently. But yeah, we get these super funky guitar or bass lines going on. I don't remember what was happening vocally. The guitars were interesting because we would kind of bounce back and forth between left hand only and both of them. So we kind of have this element of growth where we can hear the sound swelling up basically until we get to the big moment when every instrument is in all the time. And I think those are the four sections. Um, the funky section is also sort of a pop punk idea rhythmically from the drums, and it's just very forward momentum, very driving, very bouncy. I really enjoyed it. It's a fun idea that kind of begins to put us back on the journey to return back to that A section, so we can go back into whatever the chorus. I'm just gonna keep calling it the chorus. We start the song on it, but it's the title track spoken in words. So. And so, like in this pocket, we have fun but very driving. Like I call it punky and not pop punk specifically. This has more drive and more energy to it, I think. And then we kind of increase the intensity into the metalcore kind of screaming section, and then we go into the heavy moment. So we're like rising the intensity. We bring it down quite a bit when we get into this pop punk idea. We kind of bring in the funky guitars, the funky bass, and then we slide back into the A. We have this natural increase of tension, and then kind of bring it back down so that our cycle is rather complete. We get more aggressive, we get less aggressive. The less aggressive bit leads us back into the beginning of the idea. It also pulls double duty though, because at the end of this second, or at the end of the repetition of these A, B, C, D sections, we go into the E section, which is also sort of pop punk, maybe even pop rock. So we're going to take this pop punk idea from our D section and slide into that. It's really neat how the overall flow of the styles still works. It just kind of veers into a different direction rather than returning back to the A, but it still has the same heart. It's still in that sort of upbeat, bouncy kind of rock style. They just went in a different way than returning back to that A section. And we take this into a very pop rock solo, which I thought it was really neat because guitar tone wise, I think this is the first time I've heard Maxium The Hormone use this guitar tone. The couple of times that I've heard them feature a guitar, it's typically more of an edgier guitar tone, something that fits more in, metalcore or hardcore or metal in general, just something a bit more aggressive in the tone. And this really likens back to some pop rock styles of tones that are brighter and less abrasive, just a very soothing style of guitar tone. And it takes the rhythm and melody from the Chū Chū lovely rhythm that the drummer sings in the chorus and applies it to the guitar and utilizes that as a springboard to move into other ideas. It's really neat how it feels like it's going to be a repetition, which a lot of pop rock guitar solos, at least the ones that are played on the radio, I don't know about stuff on the fringe, guitar solos tend to just be the vocal melody played on guitar. I've heard that so many times in the genre. It's interesting that they start off with that and then move into unique ideas. It's a very nice way of bringing variation in on it. And at first I thought it was going to be subtle variation. There's a little change to the end of the melody, and I thought they were just going to repeat it, which, again, pretty typical for the genre, but pretty typical for Maxium The Hormone. They have to subvert the expectations, and instead they move into a completely new idea that just flows great from where they were at. I don't typically associate Maxium The Hormone with flow, especially melodic flow. To me, they're a very textural, energetic band. They deal a lot in vibe in the few songs that I've listened to from them, and it was really neat hearing this more melodic driven side because the solo does have really great flow to it. They even utilize variation to lead us from an idea we're familiar with and gently move into a unique concept that just works so well. It is everything I love about guitar solos and melody writing in general from a band that I just don't associate great melody writing with because they don't tend to play around with it too often in my experience. They go for catchy vocal lines and textural instrumental stuff. It was just really nice hearing that. And then this took us to the next section, and honestly, the only thing I remember about it was that it was sparse. I remember the vocals started pan left, and they said something, and then went right and said something, and centered, and said something that was twice as long, giving us our 4 bars, bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4. Did it again. I think the drums were doing something light here. There might have been a guitar, but there wasn't a lot of stuff here until the end of it, and I think there was like a snare roll that took us back into the A section to finish the song up. But yeah, just so much stuff going on. It took me 10 minutes there just to talk about every idea going on, and I didn't even go into any of them in depth. I really just did a surface level read on all of them. But it's wild how they dance between the more aggressive stuff, like in that C section, which is just full on everybody in the band playing this heavy stuff, growling, or whatever you want to call that harsh vocal, and just like all these attacks all at the same time. And they can also swing back to the other side of pretty much the most palatable pop rock you can think of, and they express everything in between. They have vocal layering, they have gang vocals, they have harsh vocals, they have harsh rapping, they have both cleanish male vocals, they have clean female vocals, and just like there's so much going on, and I expect that from them. Like I said, playing around with genres, throwing in a lot of ideas. I know like 3 of the people in the band do vocals, maybe all 4 of them. This is just kind of what I expect from them, but just not ever so condensed like this. I don't think we've heard a 3-minute song from them before. Usually in the 4 or 5 minute range, where they have a bit of time to further explore the ideas. Whereas this one, it's very surface level. We have an idea, we'll do it for 8 bars. There's no depth to it. We're not going to add layers to it. What you get is what you get. We're moving on, and I kind of appreciate it. It's just not fooling around at all. I can't think of a good metaphor for that or a good phrase, but yeah, no nonsense. There we go. They get into it, they say this is what we're doing, and then they leave. They're done. They don't feel they need to explore it anymore. And I have to have respect for that. Just dive in, check it out, dive out. Um, so because the song is constantly flowing, I don't know that there's a general overall vibe that I'm getting here, though. It is upbeat in a lot of sections. There's the heavy section. Um, Even the metalcore rapping section feels kind of upbeat to me. The one that comes after that, that's a bit heavier and very short compared to the rest of them, is the only time that I really feel tension in the song. Everything else is, upbeat, fun, bouncy. A lot of that comes from the pop edge that we get from the pop rock and the pop punk, but it's still just very fun and grooving. Everything sort of moves forward at a nice pace. And yeah, it's just an energetic song. I could imagine listening to this live and just, the mosh pits and the people jumping around and all the energy that the audience is going to get from listening to this. That to me is what this song is. It is just energy in sonic form, which really makes me worried about the lyrics because, like I said, this is very light, bouncy, forward momentum, fun, energetic. We're in lyrical dissonance week, and the opposite of all of that is heavy and dark and depressing. I'm real worried about getting into the lyrics. Is there anything else I want to talk about, though? I don't think so. We've talked about the variety. We've talked about what every section's doing. We've talked about the structure. And I've gushed about, all the vocals. And yeah, I guess that's it. Kind of a short one, but it's also a 3-minute song. So I have the the lyrics here. They are not, well, there's some words in English, but they are in Japanese, I believe, is where Maxim the Hormone comes from, is Japan. But I do have translations. I don't know how accurate they are. We're going to see what happens. So, the title of the song, Chū Chū, Lovely, Muni Muni, Mura Mura, Purrin Purrin, Boron, Nuru Ru, Rero Rero. And I probably pronounced that wrong both times I've said it. I apologize. Apparently, it's just a list of onomatopoeia. Now, what I think is most interesting is the way that onomatopoeias shift from culture to culture, or maybe even language to language. I'm not sure where that line is drawn, because some of these onomatopoeias, actually none of them, I'll say, sound right to me. And for those who don't know, an onomatopoeia is a word that expresses a sound, and typically it is the same sound. For instance, bang. When I say that there is a bang, the word itself is explosive and loud. It's bang, it's a big sound already. It kind of expresses the ideas of what a bang would be. That is an onomatopoeia. So these are very interesting to me because they don't do that, and I don't know if that is a cultural thing or a language thing or what. But I don't get the same idea out of some of these. They're not, well, let me put it this way. They're not self-explanatory, which is what I think an onomatopoeia is supposed to be. But like I said, there's a language and culture difference here, so I'm going to just roll with this. So the Chū Chū is the sound of kissing. Lovely seems to be just literally taking the English word lovely and putting it in there. Muni is the sound of groping. Mura is the sound of arousal. Purrin is the sound of wobbling. Boron is the sound of plucking a stringed instrument. Nururu is the sound of making something wet, and rero is the sound of licking. I have 2 comments so far. 1. Who brought this to my attention? And 2, this is a thirsty song, because this is repeated so many times. I mentioned there's at least 3 of these sections. It is the most repeated section of the entire track. Oh, I'm sorry, 4 times. I don't know how I messed that one up. Yes, this line is said 17 times in the song. Okay, moving on. I think this is the rapping section. That girl tears off her rock and roll pantyhose and reveals her burning hot body. The moshing of the stalkers of undeniable tendencies starts right here. Yeah, very thirsty. So it's interesting though, the inclusion of the rock ideas in here. Of course, it's about somebody getting naked and somebody else becoming aroused by this, right? But she has rock and roll pantyhose, the undeniable tendencies, which would be, the animalistic urges that arise from arousal. They're moshing, right? Interesting ways to go about writing this. And again, I don't know if these are completely accurate. I don't know if they're literal translations. I don't know if they're what's the opposite of literal? Figurative translations? Ones that have been adapted better to suit the language rather than being a direct translation. I don't know. But yeah, just really interesting how those two ideas. Oh, you know what? I see what I think is supposed to be rock and roll and moshu. So I think that they do have. I think those are actually literal translations. Rock and roll pantyhose and moshing are literally words in there. After that, this is the section that's the super heavy. It says vinyl, 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 sex, aluminum, 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 aluminum. I'm gonna be honest. I still have no idea what's going on here. This is just a very thirsty track so far. That seems to. I mean, vinyl and aluminum. I'm really trying to think here. It's just getting real kinky. All right, so after that we have "Bitch You Get You." Sorry, let's pull up the translation. I was gonna read the Japanese. So, "Bitch You Get You," a bunch of middle-aged phantom killers, the dying hour all year round, foreigners taking up permanent residence amongst reconstruction. Hmm. I don't know what the middle-aged phantom killers are. I don't know what the dying hour is. Foreigners taking up permanent residence amongst reconstruction could just be the rise of foreigners emigrating to Japan. But like we've taken a big leap from thirsty lyrics to this. I don't know. Then we move on to a thin-waisted masterpiece. Este Host Club is immortal. The stress of helping, the stress of responsibilities, man and women is an eternal phrase. A justice game? A sex slave can't suppress their desires in that suitcase if a coil of rope, packing tape, and a cutter knife. Okay, see, we're going right back to that kinky thirst. I have no idea what that last section was going on about. It feels very isolated thematically. But we're back to this idea about relieving stress and visually appealing people. And back to the ideas of vinyl and suppressed desires of a sex slave in a suitcase. And then we repeat all this all over again. Are there any changes? There are a change. In the rapping section, so we go back to the Chū Chū section, that's identical. We go to the second rapping section though, and there is a vocal or lyrical variation here. It still ends with the moshing of the stalkers of undeniable tendencies, starts right here. However, prior to that, instead of talking about the rock and roll pantyhose, says, "I just want to see you naked," getting very direct here. I want to see how you look. It's a life of masturbation for a guy. Because of these undeniable tendencies. Then we go back into the vinyl stuff, except instead of aluminum, we are repeating polyester. We go back into the thing about the immigration. We go back into this. What was this about? Oh yeah, the stress of responsibilities. We go back into our A section. Then we have our guitar solo into the section where I think this is where the vocals are jumping around. It says a college student would be good, a high school student would be good, a middle school student would be good, an elementary school student would be good. It would be great if they were tantalizing. And then we go back into the Chū Chū line to finish the track. Man, that took what in the... It went from thirsty, which, kind of thirsty and energetic. I can kind of go with those two, especially the adrenaline rising in a lot of these sections, especially the heavier ones being very forward momentum, lots of emphasis on accented beats, really getting that rising heartbeat feeling in some of these sections. And then we get to this, though, and assuming this entire song is about raging libidos, here at the height of the song, right before we're about to finish it off, literally says any age is fine. And I have no idea how to take that. Because the thing is, like, Maxium The Hormone, I haven't looked at all of their lyrics because we checked out a lot of them prior to when I started analyzing lyrics on the channel. But the couple of times they seem to be a very forward-thinking band. One of the songs we checked out was even a way to bring spotlight or attention to eating disorders. All right, so mental health is a big thing that the band seems to push for. I would not expect them to be also speaking about pedophilia in a positive light. It seems like right here. I mean, even it says an elementary student would be good. It would be great if they were tantalizing. I mean, how do I take this? Do I give them the benefit of the doubt here because of the way that I've perceived them already? Is there something I'm missing? And what does any of this have to do with middle-aged phantom killers? The dying hour all year round, foreigners taking up permanent residence amongst Reconstruction. You know, up until this point, I'm like, this really isn't that big on lyrical dissonance. Everything kind of works together, but I mean, what is going on with this final stanza? I think that's where I'm going to call it. This is where I'm going to need... Wait. When did this come out? I don't have a date. Oh, 2007. Yeah, I don't know. Because, like, I don't know a lot about Japanese culture. Okay, I'm just going to come out and say that. But I do know that they have a bit of a... Because, I'm going back to the ideas of utilizing the sound for groping in the opening, which I kind of passed over as just a thirsty onomatopoeia, but it also is kind of sinister. Most people don't want to be groped. It's usually utilized as a negative way to touch somebody, where the same action might have a different name in a consensual setting. Yeah, consensual. And so they've kind of stuck this negative aspect in here, and that's reminding me of I think it's Japan that has different trains for both genders, for men and women, because there was like a groping issue, right? Because they packed their trains so full. And so now I'm like starting to turn this. I'm like, wait a second, is this bringing attention to the sexualization stuff that's happening in Japan? And then I start thinking about idols, right? And the fetishization, that's a hard word to say. Fetishization. I probably still said it wrong. Of, idols. And idols are typically younger girls. And maybe that's the idea in the end about any age is fine. And maybe the song isn't thirsty, it's actually bringing attention to the thirsty culture of over sexualization in Japan. But I don't know if that's an actual thing. I know that there is a groping issue, and I know that there is a fetishization of idols, and even from a Western world, we see Westerners going over to Japan um, because they believe that Japanese women are more subservient and stuff like that, like all these really weird racial things that they believe. And of course, a lot of those are based in sex and sexualization of um, a, a race. Maybe that's what this song is about, but I also feel like I'm grasping a bit there because I don't know that everything really fits in there, especially when we get to some of the kinky stuff. The vinyl and the aluminum and a suitcase of handcuffs. I don't remember. Oh, the coil of rope. That's what it was. So like, man, I don't think I have the right perspective to speak on this. So yes, this is where I'm gonna end it. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you have any insight on this, if I'm going the right direction, if maybe I was right the first time and they're just promoting pedophilia in a very thirsty way. If so, I'm going to be kind of upset that I spoke so positively about their music in this one, but it's just a really weird song, and I'm really hoping something was lost in translation here. Maybe it is a bit more satirical, maybe it's supposed to be a parody, maybe it's done tongue in cheek to bring attention to this. Like, I don't know, but on the surface it looks very sketchy. So those are my thoughts. Leave your comments. Above the comment section is a description box. In there is a link for Linktree. It'll take you to this menu right here. Come on, why does it always do this? It'll take you to this menu right here. It's got everything related to the channel on it. You can pick up some merch, join the Patreon, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord server, just a bunch of stuff. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Greatly appreciate all three of those. I really don't think I could have picked a better song for the week because I was so pumped going into the lyrics, and I'm apprehensive about even posting it. So, yeah, we have a special selection set for today. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.